Evening, everyone. We're ready to start this first candidate forum. My name is Vince Rattay from the Springfield Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of directors. And on behalf of the organizing committee of the Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome each one of you and thank you for joining us tonight on the first forum of our 2018 municipal elections. So tonight's forum is for the candidates of Ward, what ward is this? Ward 5, yeah. I'm not from Ward 5. I'm in Ward 1, but. So it's for the candidates of Ward 5 seeking a seat on council. There will be 3 other forums held across the RM, with the Reeve Forum taking place this Thursday at Springfield Collegiate. Thank you. I'm giving you opportunity to say things now. So that'll be in Oakbank. That's this Thursday, featuring all of the different Reeves. And at time, I believe all the forums are at 6:30. The Springfield Chamber of Commerce is made up of people who live, work, and play in Springfield, just like you do. And ours is not an exclusive view of business, but of a whole community. So our membership do care deeply about building healthy, well-rounded communities and giving back. And the Chamber took initiative with the forums because we feel it is important that the voting public has a direct, unbiased chance to evaluate the candidates based on their responses to different types of questions. I'll tell you a little bit more about the questions in a minute. These forums will allow the public to become informed about the election and candidate platforms, which is even more important given the large number of candidates running. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce our candidates from Ward 5. We have Ross Owens. We have Wilfred Funk. We have Peter Williams. And we have Kyle Ross. And missing, who is out of town on business, is Adrian Brown. He's also running. So we'd like to, first of all, express our thanks to all the candidates who've stepped up to enter the race and put themselves forward to participate in this great thing called the democratic process. We'd like to also thank our community partners for their role in bringing the forums to the community alongside with the Chamber, the Age-Friendly Committee, the Cooks Creek Expansion Committee, Springfield Agricultural Group, Springfield Democratic Development, Springfield Women's Institute, Vision 2020, and there's a numerous number of people who have also sent in some submissions. So I'd like to introduce our moderator for tonight's forum, Mr. Ace Burpee of the morning show at Hot 103 Radio and resident of Cooks Creek. Born and bred here. So our thought in bringing in some outside talent, just for a starter, was that Ace has an appeal to a lot of people being raised in this community, and he's kind of a little bit famous. Okay, maybe a lot famous. More famous than me. Anyways, so we are thankful for him being here, but we also, we are particularly interested in engaging some of our young families and young voters who a lot of times aren't too keen on municipal politics. They're busy with hockey and sports and so on. And when it comes time for things, sometimes they need to get out and vote, right? So that's part of what we were thinking. And so also, we also have Mr. Linton Sellon of Training Plus Incorporated, longtime resident of Springfield. He will be assisting tonight, and he will be taking over and running the rest of the forums across the RM over the next 3 sessions. And so Mr. Sellon, he doesn't probably need an introduction, but we're going to give him one. He was telling us in preparing for the candidate forum, he sequestered and kind of cloistered himself and made sure that he didn't engage in reading any of the political things that were going around. He stayed off Oakbank Rant and Rave. Didn't read it. He actually escorted candidates to the edge of his property and asked them not to return. He wanted to make sure that he was in an unbiased position and wasn't influenced by anyone or anything, including the Chamber of Commerce who's sponsoring the event. And so we had a list of we had 18 pages of questions that came in from everywhere. I stopped reading after page 1. What we did is we just gave them over to Linton, and we said, here you go, try and figure it out. After my dog ran across the road and was on the neighbor's property and all of that, he boiled it down. So anyways, he had a healthy task, and so he has 12 questions on a list that we're going to pose to the candidates. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to one of our esteemed moderators.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, so thank you all for being here. And like Vince said, thank you to you four gentlemen for putting your name out there and stepping up and running. That is very cool. Also, as Vince said, I am from Cooks Creek, which of course we all know is the capital of the RM. So that's cool. So the format tonight, all of our candidates will have up to 3 minutes. It may be awkward sometimes because we'll get to 2 minutes 45 seconds and I might stand. If I start to rise slowly and they look over, that's their cue to sort of wrap it up. So there may be some awkwardness, but 3 minutes just to keep things on track because these questions are all really good. They'll be able to respond fully to each question without interruption, so it's not like a debate halfway through an answer. Ross can't jump in and say, no, Wilfred, that's not true. They get the full 3 minutes to answer their question how they see fit. And we may, depending on how it goes and time-wise and things like that, like Vince said, so tons and tons of questions came in. Linton has vetted them and gone through them and seen what common themes are and common words that keep popping up. But if you do have a question and you would like to submit, where do they actually go physically to? Right at the back. So right at the back where the canteen would be, and you can submit a question there, and then we'll just see where we're at around question 6 or 7, and then go from there. So in terms of the rules of participation and audience stuff, I'll let Linton speak to that.
Good evening. Welcome. The purpose of the forum is to hear what these four gentlemen think on issues relative to council and the election. The purpose of the forum is not to hear what you think on issues of council and the election, with all due respect. We don't have time for that, and we want to get as much time as we can to get as much information from these people. So here's the rules of engagement. You may not cheer, clap, boo, hiss, eyeball roll, groan, gesticulate, or in any way indicate agreement or disagreement with any comments made by any candidates. We're going to ask you to follow that strictly. And at the end of the session, we'll give you all an opportunity to express your appreciation to all four, and we'll give all a round of applause. But you're all going to have to reserve your applause for the end, and the only thing you're going to be allowed is applause anyway. I was telling folks that last time, the first session at Cooks Creek, when I mentioned that rule, a gentleman at the back stood up and said, then I might as well just go home. And I said, yes, you might as well, because we'll ask you to leave if you do that. So you have to watch the proceedings in silence. They're not allowed to interrupt each other, and you're not allowed to let out any commentary. If you want your opinions on civic issues shared with a general audience, next election you put your name on the ballot, you'll get to come to the forum, and you'll get to share your opinions on issues related to the election. These four gentlemen did that. That's why they get to share their opinions, and you don't get to share yours on this evening. You can share them some other time, but not here. Those are the rules of engagement. Now, in case you're wondering, because we've had a few people ask us from the audience, I'll give you the quick. Here's the general topics and the 12 questions, so you know whether or not you want to throw in your extra one or not. First one is their motivation and qualifications. Second is their top 3 priorities. Third question is on fiscal management. Fourth question is on the development plan. The fifth is on economic development. The sixth is on commercial and industrial development versus residential needs. The seventh is on agricultural issues and concerns versus residential concerns. The eighth is infrastructure, roads, and drainage. The ninth is water supply and security. The 10th is ward boundaries and redistribution and how many wards there should be. The 11th is community and public involvement. And the 12th is joint ventures or shared service agreements. So if you have a question on one of those 12 topics, we've already got it covered. If there's something we think you missed, take it to the back, and we'll bring it up here and take a look at it and see if we can include it. But you don't get to stand up and ask questions from the floor. You have to write a written one. We got pen and paper at the back for you to do it. Thank you. Now we'll start the proceedings.
Okay, thank you, Linton. So first off, just introduce yourselves. Give us a little bit of info about yourselves, what you do, where you live, and things like that. We'll go with Ross. You start us off, Ross Owens.
Hello. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for showing up. My name is Ross Owens. I'm a lifelong resident of the RM. I just happen to live right down the road on Highway 207. I say I've lived here all my life. I live in a house I really grew up in, full of renovations, everything. My brother lives next door to me. I have 4 brothers and sisters. We've gone through the whole system in the RM, and ideally, I'm come to the age where I'm ready to serve, and I've been listening to people, and I'm just truly here to help each and every one of you with any or all concerns, and really my qualifications are, I really felt deeply about the RM. I lived here my whole life. I have many friends. I have many acquaintances, and through all the meetings of everyone, any events I do go to, I meet more friends, more acquaintances, and it just becomes a more ballooning family of an RM. So really, that's my spiel of why I am sitting up here at this table at this moment. So thank you very much.
Well done. Thank you so much, Ross. Let's go with Kyle Ross next to speak to a bit about you. Tell them about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Ross. I live in Dugald. I moved there about 6 years ago with my family. I have a daughter who's 7 and a son who's 4. I'm heavily involved in the community in Dugald. I put on tournaments and stuff like that, and I volunteer at the community club. And I just thought I'd like to make more change in our community and get more involved at a higher level. They ask qualifications for to run for councillor or an elected position. As the state's proved, I don't think that there's any real qualifications as to be elected. I'm a computer programmer right now, and for that I work construction. So in my day-to-day job, I plan projects, and we fiscally responsible projects. We have to measure our returns and stuff like that. So and vision. I'd just like to see our RM grow, be safe, have our families be able to live here and enjoy their lives here. And that's all I have to say. That's about me.
Right on. Thank you, Kyle. Let's meet candidate number 3, Wilfred Funk. Wilfred?
Hi, my name is Wilfred Funk. My wife and I have lived in the RM for 20 years now in Ward 5. Our children went to school in Dugald and also graduated from SDI. The reason I'm running is I would like to see Ward 5 get good representation again for once. Thank you.
And finally, let's meet Ross Owens. Sorry, Peter Williams, sorry. Sorry.
Great start. My name is Peter Williams. I've been living in this municipality for 33 years. I've been married for 40 years to my wife, Gladys Williams, and we raised 3 sons in this municipality. I have had a lot of interaction with council over the years, and I just want to be able to work from the other side of the fence. Thank you.
Okay, so some of this, it might overlap with sort of your opening, and we'll do the same order as we did off the top. So we'll start with Ross. So just speak to, in case you didn't get it through in your opening, or 3 things, and that is your motivation for doing this. Okay, some of you have touched on that. What qualifies you for the role, and then what we need as well is, what is your vision for the RM? What do you see for the future of our RM? So same order, and we'll start with you, Ross.
I think I forgot all those questions already. Ideally, what I want to see with the RM is a cohesive council. Right now, it's like fractured. Nobody can get anything done. The RM has a horrible reputation with like community building, developers. It's not good. So with what I hope to bring is like forward thinking, somewhere where we can address these issues, bring people in that we can develop the community, where it's more viable for us as residents, where it benefits commercial development, and then we can just progress and just make our community more, ideally more livable, really. So yes, ideally, my motivation for all this is, call it old age, but you read the paper, you see the views of the politics and all the negativity, and I just really like to change the front page of a paper. Make something positive that can be displayed on the front page of a paper. So I hope I addressed everything.
Right on. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks for not standing up.
Kyle, yeah, well done. Kyle, so speak to either your motivation, or you did touch on what qualifies, but also your vision for the RM.
Part of my motivation is when I grew up, I was always taught that you don't complain about the change, be part of the change. Try to get involved, try to help usher the change to where you want it to go, and maybe help people follow you. So that's why my main motivation to get up and stand up and try run for councillor. And my vision is just, like I said before, have a place where families can grow up, because I'm younger than most of the candidates running in this election, and I have a young family, and I think sometimes we're overlooked of what we want and what our plans are, our things we'd like to see in the RM, because we're younger. We have families, and the councillors are usually have grandchildren or grown children, so their values, or they're not their values, but their views for right now and what they want to see are different than mine.
He's not saying you're old, he's saying you're older. Right? It's the difference. Yeah, true. True. Wilfred, speaking to the subject of either your motivation or your vision for the RM.
Well, motivation I already spoke on. I would like to see better representation in Ward 5. And also my vision is to find cost savings to keep our taxes low in the future.
Boom, straight up. You wanted that one. Finally, Peter, your vision for the RM and anything else you'd like to include, whether it be also your motivation.
Thank you. I have for over 10 years been working with councils on issues where I felt they were not working for the best interests of the municipality. I have decided that as the time required to spend on my business is getting less, that I now have an opportunity to devote more time to dealing with municipal issues. I have an engineering degree from the University of Manitoba. I worked for Bristol Aerospace for 10 years as a project engineer. And in 1992, I established my own business, a municipal consulting company here in Springfield. And I've been providing expertise and data for informed decision-making in municipalities across Manitoba, and helping them succeed with some of the same issues that Springfield struggles with. Naturally, I'm interested in my own municipality and have actively attended Springfield Development Plan hearings, annual budget hearings, council meetings, and made representation at municipal board hearings and public utilities hearings. I enjoy working with others to find answers, and I've already been working with others towards solutions for Springfield, and I'm looking forward to becoming a councillor for Ward 5. To continue to use my 26 years of experience as a municipal consultant to deliver good stewardship for our tax dollars in Springfield. My vision for Springfield is to have a municipality that is known by its residents and businesses for good governance, for well-planned communities, for encouraging new businesses, and for a reputation for fairness. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, Peter. Actually, take the mic back, Peter. We'll come back this way for this next question. And this would be what you see, this is to all candidates, as the top 3 priorities for council. Top 3 priorities for council, starting with you, Peter.
There are a number of priorities that I would like to deal with as a member of council, and the concerns that have been raised as I go door to door confirmed what I have felt that taxpayers' concerns, and plus I've found a few more that I've added to my priorities. So I'm going to list the ones that affect the municipality as a whole. My first priority as a new councillor is to complete the current development plan and move on to secondary and zoning bylaws. And I'll be making more comments about that later. My second priority is to get a more fair tax model. This is definitely one that was mentioned most often at the door. My third priority is to realign spending priorities to ensure basic services are given attention and adequate funding. Public safety is one of my priorities. I'd like to mention one more issue, and fire-rated hydrants in Dugald was a promise made many years ago. This is a safety issue for all of Dugald, and as there's a phase 2 development for seniors at Dugald Estates in the planning, I want this issue to be dealt with.
Thank you, Peter. To Wilfred now, same question. What do you identify as the top 3 priorities for council?
Well, my first priority, as everybody knows whose door I've knocked on by now, is saving the municipality money. And also, my second priority is to make fairness between all taxpayers. And also, my third priority would be the growth of the community.
Thank you, Wilfred. To Kyle Ross now on your top 3 priorities for council.
Not to reiterate, but of course I'd like to see our taxes. One of my priorities is to see our taxes, the growth slow, see if we can get our spending under hand and under control, so we can see taxes stay flat or grow less than inflation, so we actually see gains in our pocketbooks. I'm for recreation. I think we need to do more for recreation. I think it should be somewhat of a priority. There's very few large community clubs, and my third priority is probably safety, but I see the police have been doing a lot more rounds, and because theft has been a problem in our area, and I assume from the Rat and Reeves, there's a lot of theft in Oakbank as well, and I think with the municipal police force, we should probably look at trying to get that curtailed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Finally, Ross on the top 3 priorities identified by you for council.
I could list way more than 3 ideally, but to pinpoint them, I think I've commented before, but ideally we need to create a conjoined council. People that are like-minded and who think like towards the future so we can progress. Ideally, that is probably number 1. And ideally, it's nice to see people from other wards here, because the responsibility for you, other than people outside Ward 5, is to remember that we all have to be together, we all have to vote together. All of us, we're only one vote, and that one vote will not get anyone very far if it's not focused on the other people, if the other people don't view it as a future for the RM. So, and outstanding in for Dugald area, Anola, Coos Creek, Hazelridge, Oakbank, senior living is progressively going to become a problem. We have people on farms. People do not want to get to an age where they want to or have to leave the farm, and they don't want to go to Winnipeg. They want to stay in our community. We have the independent living right now in Dugald, which is an awesome idea, but we need to progress a little bit further. We could have a assisted living, we could have a home care, we could have, if it's all co-op, you buy in, you start, I hate to say it's a vicious circle, kind of like the junior high, elementary, high school. You start with independent living, you're off the farm. Progressively, as you age, you need better services, medical. You could progress further to the next one, which is assisted living. And then we get to stay in the community as seniors, and as you progress around the full circle, if we could establish, say, like home care, a complex for our seniors to stay in the community, stay close to their families, that would be a true goal of mine in this next adventure. So, and ideally, in order to do all this, we have to have economic growth. Without that, we are nowhere. Our taxes will remain to go high. Nothing will ever get done because the RM will be cash strapped. So we have to bring in business. Business will give us an advantage. If it's close, we'll have people that will actually have employment where they don't have to go into Winnipeg. People will be closer to their homes in Cooks Creek. Oh, and I see someone standing. Sorry. You should really be standing over here. So, but ideally, it's just, we need to progress, and like, I'm sorry, but those are like finer 3 points that I should really pinpoint. So, thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, we'll start this one. Wilfred, you will be first to answer this next question. Comment on fiscal management and budgetary policy at the RM. What changes, if any, would you make regarding fiscal policy and practices? And are there areas where you'd like to see money increased or money decreased in terms of expenditures? So, Wilfred, you're up.
I don't think I would make any real changes right now. I would have to see what the books look like. And also for the increases or decreases, I would like to decrease the amount that council is spending.
We'll go next to Peter. So your thoughts on fiscal management, any changes, whether it's policy or practices or increases or decreases?
At the door, I'm hearing that taxes are increasing beyond what property owners deem to be reasonable. I have for the past 12 years attended council, budget meetings. And for the most part, I focused my concerns on capital spending. In my opinion, the forecasting of capital expenditures has, except in the last few years, been undisciplined. And I want to restore public confidence in the budgeting process. In terms of transparency, this current council has made great strides, and I hope to continue that transparency. If a municipality knows how it will grow, it should be able to forecast capital projects into the next 10 or 20 years. It's my intent that we make sure we're making these forecasts so that our future financing will not have any surprises.
Thank you. We'll go to Ross Owens next. Ross, on fiscal management, fiscal policies, practices, increases, decreases. Ross.
Ideally, from what I've been hearing as I go door to door is right off the hop, it's council. It's sending 5-6 representatives to a seminar in Halifax where all 6 go, and it's an exceedingly amount of funds that the RM ideally cannot afford. It's been addressed that, well, why can't 2 people go to a seminar? And 2 people can bring back a fundamentally adapted report, something that we can look at and analyze. It was said that people wouldn't like that because, well, some people can't bring back a biased report. Well, ideally, we need people on council that can address both sides of a forum, that they can view both sides and verbalize it to the community, to the other members of the council. Right away, there's a great cost savings, which ideally it looks great in your eyes. We're not overspending your tax dollars. So that's otherwise the RM. I think they're doing a fine job. The water plan, it's out there. We have to maintain that. We have to maintain one cherished commodity that we have in this RM, our water. So through aggregate, through manure, anything like that, because we are rural, we have to protect that. So we have to protect our wells, and we have to moderate it and go from there and make sure that it's an everlasting commodity that we do have.
Thank you, Ross. Final word to Kyle on the subject of fiscal management.
Hello. Fiscal manager, I think we should we have to keep spending at one point. We have to manage our future spending. From what I see, the council has been spending on election cycles and planning their spending around winning the next election, where I think we have to plan 10, 15 years in the future. I plan on being here for 30 years, and I think that it's just prudent for council to plan for the future. I don't think the RM of Springfield's going anywhere in the next 100 years. We're here 100 years already. It's time to think that way, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, Kyle, you will be up first with our next question as well. And this deals with the current development plan. So are you in favor of it as it stands? Would you make changes? If so, would you care to share those changes with us? And how do you see the implementation process moving forward? So to speak first on the development plan, Kyle.
To be honest, I'm not 100% familiar with the development plan. I have looked at it briefly, but I'm not. So I don't want to spend, but I think we have to go forward with it, as we don't need to have do another development plan, hire consultants again, and spend more taxpayers' dollars to probably get the same information. One change I would like to see is probably a commercial zone from Springfield Road south on 206 for the first mile, and add some commercial business there so we can attract some business. It's be a good space. A lot of cities have this now. Steinbach has it. A lot of cities have that for commercial. And I think for implementing any plan, as long as the planning is done up front and well thought out, usually it goes off with less hitches. That's my opinion on the development plan.
Let's go to Peter Williams next, the one that's before council right now, this development plan. Are you in favor of it as it stands? Changes? What about the implementation process, Peter?
This bylaw is probably the most important municipal policy document. It defines the values of the municipality, and they are reflected in the land use policies. For instance, the new development plan states that Springfield's mission is to support and enhance agricultural economy, and also to encourage and strengthen opportunities for business to establish and survive. The development plan is the context for all of our planning decisions. In 2004, I was part of a team that was awarded a Manitoba Planning Excellence Award for outstanding achievement in community planning by the Manitoba government, for my part in the RM of Hanover Development Plan and Zoning Bylaw. I do not have any significant issues with our development plan, and I can tell you it's a quality product. In 2014, the current council was elected, and they discarded the work of a previous development plan review and engaged the services of another consultant to undertake the review. This new process had extensive engagement with the public. There were workshops, several open houses, all of which I attended, and I expect any candidate that you are considering has participated in the preparation of this important document. This bylaw has gone through two readings, and is now in the hands of the provincial government for their review. We know that the province has a few concerns, but depending on the scope of their recommended changes, I want to proceed to third reading and adoption of this bylaw. I then want to quickly proceed with the development of secondary plans and the zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Peter. Wilfred, speak to, please, the development plan that is currently before council and your thoughts.
I'm in favor of it, and I would just leave it as it stands.
Thank you, Wilfred. Final word to Ross.
I'm in favor of the development plan. The economic plan is very solid. We now have a creation of a Chamber of Commerce in the RM of Springfield. They offer a lot of good insight on the economic side of it. The environmental issues have been addressed very much, I think, through the RM, through the Director of Waste and Water. And so I have no problem with that. I know of some of the future infrastructure going in to protect our water and that. But the one truly thing for the development is the social aspect, the recreation, places for our kids, or your kids, to really to grow, to communicate with each other. We need that. We have prime examples of Cooks Creek, where really weekend after weekend they are getting together and they are building a community. Nola, same thing. We have community building. And Dugald, again, they have their pancake breakfasts. We have all that. Oakbank, they are lacking a recreation for a good core of RM, and really they don't have a whole lot. So ideally, kids, our youth, need something to do other than sit on their butts, play video games, watch YouTube. We need to get them interacting, communicating with each other. So if we could build a social development a little bit more, ideally that would be just perfect from my view. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question, Ross, you'll be up first again. So your stance, your policies, how you think regarding the role of council in the economic development of the RM. So where do you see the council in terms of their role and economic development of the RM? Ross.
Well, again, it's our views, or probably my view, that council has to work with business. Business has to be brought in. It has to be appealing for the economic side of it. We have to, how would you say, entice people to bring into our community to give us the economic growth that we need to really maintain our livelihoods, really. So it's council, with the help of Springfield Chamber of Commerce, who hosted this event. Hopefully we can do that. We can provide meaningful grounds that people can bring their businesses to our communities to really enhance their business and enhance our lives.
Thank you, Ross. Wilfred now on the role of council in terms of economic development of the RM.
I think council should be working together with the public and start raising funds. So someday there will be a Springfield Recreation Complex. And this, if the people would show that they're serious, maybe the federal government, provincial government, and the municipal government, along with all the businesses, would all kick in and we could do it.
Thank you, Wilfred. Kyle, on the role of council in terms of economic development.
I think council needs to take an active role in ensuring that our taxes are competitive and the fees are competitive to attract business. We can rate, otherwise there's a race to the bottom, and that's possible, but then you're putting the burden back on the taxpayers. And I think business should take care of itself, but we should make it an environment where business can succeed and business wants to come work and come and set up their business, because people are taking risks when they set up their business and they want the opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Final word on the topic of the role of council in economic development. Peter Williams.
I fully understand that Springfield businesses provide local employment and generate tax revenues that can be used for local amenities. Economic development is the engine that attracts new businesses, supports existing businesses, and creates a thriving business community. As a councillor for Ward 5, I will continue to encourage the municipality to be proactive in this area. Our current 10-year vision document cites a strategic goal for the municipality to attain a balanced economy. I agree with this goal. Because of our proximity to Winnipeg, we've become in large part a bedroom community. We have very little local employment and certainly not very few high-paying jobs. It will be difficult to encourage the growth of commercial, industrial, and agricultural business, but necessary if we're going to progress as a well-managed municipality.
Thank you, Peter. Keep the mic, and this sort of segues into our next question. So your views on prioritizing or balancing commercial or industrial development, those needs versus residential needs and interests. So commercial and industrial development needs versus residential needs and interests. Peter, you are up.
Thank you. The taxable portion of property assessments is significantly higher for commercial industrial properties than it is for residential properties. This is a formula set by the province, and it basically assumes taxes are more of a burden on residential properties than they are on commercial properties, and that commercial properties should be subsidizing residential services. I don't have a problem with the current portion formulas. And I think that vandalism issues in the industrial park are being addressed with a new fire hall and with increased police patrols. So we are providing more services to the industrial park, which they have not been getting in the last little while. Services beyond the basics for residential properties are geared to quality of life services such as recreation. And recreation is an important amenity for communities, and it tends to be a higher priority issue for residents. Recreation programs provide important benefits to the municipality as a whole. We should, however, ensure that the basic residential services are being properly funded.
Thank you, Peter. We'll come all the way back down to Ross here, and we're speaking to prioritizing or balancing commercial and industrial development needs versus those of the residents.
Commercial development, actually, this question kind of baffles me because it shows development, but yet in the development future, it says we need to protect agricultural land, which I totally agree. So where do we actually get the land from? We can't shove everything inside the perimeter that's still in the RM Springfield. We have to develop tightly, and the same goes with residential. If we're going to grow, we're going to have to start like taking in some of the agricultural, whether it be like the poor pieces of the good land for growth. But we do need to progress, and I see in the future there are channels of property down the Highway 206, smaller areas in Dugald and that are slated for business development. But that'd be nice to see. But again, we have to take away from agricultural land in order to develop, because ideally, and it scares me when it comes to inside the RM, you have the transport road, you have the whole industrial area that I'm fearful if at some point in time the city of Winnipeg is going to come along and just annex it from us and say it's ours, because they have attempted to take portions of the taxes from us. I believe it was school tax, don't quote me on that, but they've attempted, and they more than likely will attempt again to take away that valuable income that the RM does take in from that portion of the RM. So ideally, it's a kind of a weary situation where the economic, industrial, commercial, industrial, and residential growth, you have to take one away to create the other for us to continue to live in the RM.
Thank you, Ross. Kyle, now on the balance between commercial industrial development needs versus those of the residents.
I think it's a fine balance. It's to find the balance of everyone's needs at the same time, right? It's to get the commercial, you have to get the commercial to get your tax bases, and then you want to protect your people at the same time in their land. But at one point, we're going to have to probably ask farmers to sell their agricultural land to use add commercial space, because there's only so much land in the RM of Springfield. It's a very hard balance, and I don't think you can please anyone by doing it. But that's where we're at, and that's all I have to say.
Final word to Wilfred Funk on said topic.
Well, I think we need all three: commercial, industrial development, and we also need to do a little bit more subdividing that we can get more tax dollars from some of the land that is deemed not good for agriculture.
Thank you all. I know some people joined us after we had begun, so if you have just joined us, welcome. And you see Vince in the middle there. If you have a question, by all means, grab a pen and paper from him and give it to Vince, and we will try and get to them. And yeah, so welcome, those of you who have just joined us. Okay, we're going to start with Kyle on this one. These are your views, so we some of you bled into it on the last one, so it balances the previous question out well, but this is balancing agricultural concerns. Okay, so please give your views regarding prioritizing or balancing, agricultural concerns versus residential concerns. So please address issues such as farming operations, running equipment late at night, continuous operation of dryers and fans, early morning aerial applications, taxes paid versus benefit received from RM, and education tax on farmland. And we will start with you, Kyle.
I think as we expand the residential areas close to the farms, we're going to hear more and more complaints about the noise. But this is farmland. Ward 5 is mostly farmland, and it's how many weeks a year out of 52? I think for the most part, most people can accept a little bit of noise for food to eat. Like, farms are important to myself. My first job was on a farm, so that's what I grew up doing. And I'm sure farmers are doing the best to alleviate the issues with noise, but unfortunately that's part of the issues. And as for the taxation, I believe farmers believe they pay their fair share of taxes, and I don't think that anybody would contest that. Their land is valuable to them, it's valuable to the RM. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Let's go all the way down to Peter on the end. So Peter, I'll give the whole question again just so you know what, these are obviously the questions that have come in are based on what questions or what words popped up most often. So your views regarding prioritizing or balancing agricultural concerns versus residential concerns, issues such as farming operations, running equipment late at night, continuous operation of dryers and fans, early morning aerial application, taxes paid versus benefit received from RM, and education tax on farmland. Peter.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier in a response on the development plan that the community consultation process has determined that one of the values we hold as a community is to support and enhance the agricultural economy. And the province sets the taxable portion of the value of farmland well below that of residential and business properties. This is in recognition of the large areas of land that are necessary for agricultural production. And many of you may have grown up in a rural area and understand the necessity of extended hours for agricultural machines during certain times of the year and see this as a slight inconvenience. Anyone who never lived in a rural municipality and moved to an urban setting for the peace and quiet needs to understand and tolerate the necessity of the farming practices that they may find intrusive. Municipalities, in accordance with provincial legislation, must provide road and drain maintenance. This is not an option. These are the primary services provided by the municipality that farming operations need. These services are more critical to the viability of farming than for residential or business properties, and we must ensure that improper or inadequate support for these services do not impact agricultural businesses. Poor drainage or the inability to access their fields has an impact on the livelihood of farmers. Educational taxes on farmland has seen some relief by the province, But there is still some unfairness on this issue, and council needs to continue to express their concerns to the province.
Thank you, Peter. Wilfred, on the subject of balancing agricultural versus residential concerns.
Well, there shouldn't be any residential concerns because the farm was there first before the residence probably was there. And I've been living for 20 years now with somebody farming behind my house. It's never kept me up at night. It doesn't really bother me.
Final word on this topic of agricultural versus residential will go to Ross Owens. Ross.
Well, I think I just have to mirror Wilfred's statement. It's really agricultural first. We are a rural community. No one ever moved a 2,000-acre farm beside a residential house accidentally, and it never became an issue. So ideally, again, we have to protect that, and we are a rural community. We are Ward 5. We aren't Ward 2 where there is more of an issue. We are a rural ward. So hopefully when you moved and because you live in that area, you respect that that's the aspect of the community that you are moving to and you have lived in for probably some time. The aspect of the tax basis, it's, again, there's no really way around it. The tax farmland, really, I would view it, the resident area of the farm, school tax, sure, but to tax 2,000 acres for school tax, I truly believe that's wrong, ideally.
Okay, thank you all. We'll start the next question with Wilfred, okay? You'll be first to comment on the following. On infrastructure, especially roads and drainage, what would your policies and approach be? How high a priority is infrastructure, especially roads and drainage? What would your approach be with respect to RM advocacy with the province regarding the costs of infrastructure maintenance? Wilfred.
Well, infrastructure is very important. Our roads are very important because we use them every day to go back and forth to work. And as I've seen, the roads have gotten worse. Today I drove down Dundee Garson. There was a whole bunch of mud pushed up onto the road by the grader operator. So I don't know if they're not being trained properly or what's going on there. And drainage, we need more drainage because I've heard that from a lot of people where I've knocked on doors. And infrastructure maintenance, well, we have to have it. We spend money into it, we gotta have it.
Kyle, now on infrastructure, especially touching on roads and drainage. Kyle.
From the travels I've made knocking on doors, I think our roads are fairly good shape. I grew up in a different area in St. Genevieve, and our road is a mud road every year, and so I drive on these roads and my little car makes it all the time. So I think overall our roads are in pretty good shape. I think it's a priority to maintain our roads and make sure they're passable, especially in the winter. We have people with home care that have to get visits, sometimes even 4 times a day, and if the home care visits can't come, they're relying on family or they're not doing well. So it's got to be a priority for every councillor to have our ditches for the farmers and infrastructure. The drainage is very important. If it's farmland sitting flooded, they're not making money on that land. It's not producing goods for service, for trade. As for, I think we have to lobby the provincial government. I know they're cutting back spending, but we'd have to lobby relatively fairly consistently to try to get more money for infrastructure so we can move our plans forward and improve our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Ross, now on infrastructure, especially roads and drainage.
Well, we have over 570 miles of roads in the RM of Springfield. And through talking with people from Public Works and that, ideally it's the gravel roads, it's the back roads that truly are the hardest part to maintain. I was told paved roads, you plow it, you touch up the shoulder. But it's our gravel roads that You get the frost boils in the springtime. You get the runoffs, the push-offs into the ditch. Those roads are really the priority for the RM to maintain, the hardest to maintain. So it's just the infrastructure, we need it. The drainage, again, if it's not flowing, it's going to back up into our properties, and it's just going to be a hindrance to everyone. So we have to just keep maintaining that. And sorry, again, with the province, we just have to continue applying for grants, because ideally that's where a portion of our money comes from. Because really, if without that, the province will not help us whatsoever.
Thank you, Ross. Final word to Peter Williams on the subject of infrastructure, especially roads and drainage. Peter.
We're living in an era of infrastructure deficit because it is in many ways not visible and therefore not much of a priority for property owners, but it does become one when roads become excessively rough, or when a drain develops standing water or does not move water through fast enough. Our municipal roads are seeing higher traffic volumes due to increased rural residential development and larger capacity trucks and agricultural equipment, which takes a toll on municipal roads. As part of the requirement mandated by the federal government, the municipality has invested in an asset management program with a view to ensuring adequate funding is set aside for repair and replacement of aging infrastructure. This is a proactive approach to managing municipal assets to anticipate replacement before it becomes necessary. This means additional funding needs to be put into reserves for this purpose. Because road and drain infrastructure is a priority for all levels of government, there's a responsibility on all parties for ensuring proper maintenance. Springfield needs to engage provincial and federal funding whenever there are opportunities to do so. They need to utilize municipal lobbying organizations such as the Association for Manitoba Municipalities and regional associations such as the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, or through opportunities that we may ourselves initiate.
Thank you all. Okay, we're going to start with Wilfred on this question, and it would be, please give your views regarding water supply and security. Please comment on managing risks to the quality and quantity of water in the future, and specifically how you view present or future residential, agricultural, or industrial practices as they relate to water supply and security. Wilfred.
Well, I have to say where I live, the water is very good. And I think there would have to be studies done on the agricultural and the industrial part of it to see how much it's going to cause problems for our water.
Let's go to Peter next on the subject of water supply and security.
Water is an essential element of life, and we need to monitor and protect our aquifers to ensure safe drinking water for ourselves and for generations to come. Over several years, I've raised awareness about this issue with both the province and will continue to do so as a member of council. In November, I wrote a letter to the provincial regulator responsible for public water systems about some issues that I was concerned about. And I did not receive a very positive response from them, so I initiated a complaint to the Ombudsman in June of 2014. The investigation took 2 years and resulted in action by the province to reclassify the municipal wells and action by the municipality to take their responsibilities more seriously. We have made progress. There is going to be a groundwater protection plan developed by the municipality, It's a requirement for the public water system that we have. Monitoring wells, which were left to become inactive, have been, in the last little while, reinstalled. The monitoring wells are there to detect any leachate from landfills that may be getting into the groundwater. This issue is important to me, and I will make it one of my priorities to ensure that groundwater is as safe as possible.
Thank you, Peter. Kyle Ross, speak to, please, your views regarding water supply and security.
I think it's very important that we protect our aquifers. If we continue to drill and have the opportunity to pollute our aquifers or keep them clean, we'll have no water to drink. I know there's been battles in Oakbank where they were trying to push the water through the town, but in people's wells. But I think we have to take a hard look and realize that maybe we don't need to drill a well on every property and pulling water from every aquifer. It's a life's resource. We can't live without it. And if we don't take a good hard look and make a good hard plan on how we're going to do this, we're risking everyone's lives, everyone in the near area.
Thank you, Kyle. Final word on this topic, water supply and security, goes to Ross Owens.
My views are really what I read from what the RM distributes to us. On the RM site, you can read that they have a plan, they have a system in place to protect our water. For development, the director of waste and water, I was told that has a very fine plan. It's very focused, it's very future aspected. Oakbank is getting near capacity. It can engulf the next development phase. Dougal will soon be getting their own water, which is a good because they've done a couple test wells, so they have that potential to have wellheads closer within, I believe, 2 miles of Dougal. So they won't be drawing from the Oakbank wellheads that are near the Moose Nose pits. So, but again, our water, the security, it's my feeling that the RM as of right now has a good hold on it because ideally they're the stakeholders who are you people. You have to have that protection, between the key groups, the equestrian people. We have to have that protection. You have the aggregate people who really, they're in the ground, they're digging up around that water source. And also the developers, if we want development, we need to have that future water source supply to be there for them. So ideally, it's my understanding that the RM has a good focus on the future for our water and our water security.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, we'll go straight down, starting with you, Ross, just straight down the line on this. Your plan with respect to ward boundaries. Your plan with respect to ward boundaries, how many wards would you have?
Well, that's kind of an issue that kind of got brought up towards the end of this last council's term, and it wasn't quite put in. It's just really my view is, I guess when it comes to a vote, you can't have an equal number. You need the odd number. You need that deciding vote where something, if the resolution, if it's 3-3, it's just a wash. You need that decisive last vote to make a true decision on something, as opposed to ward boundaries. Everyone needs true representation. You need to be heard, and if you aren't being heard by what we're supplying as potential counselors, then something should be addressed. Ideally, you need to be heard, and we need to have that taken back to council and verbalized.
Thank you, Ross. Kyle, now on your thoughts on ward boundaries and how many wards.
As Ross said, I agree there shouldn't be an even number at council. I think there should be 4 wards or 6 wards. I don't know what the answer is, but they have to be equally proportioned. I'm not opposed to Oakbank splitting, but I think we have to have them proportionate with the population so we can get fair representation amongst all the RM. tie votes, or it doesn't stop anybody from abstaining, but even still with a seven members voting, you actually have something defeated or passed. You don't have to worry about these ties where everybody's in action by subtraction, I guess you call it, but that's what I think about that.
Wilfred?
Well, I don't think we should get any more counselors because there are enough as there is. And another thing we could do is do what Broken Head does. Don't have any wards, just 4 counselors or 5 counselors run for counselor, and that's it.
Peter Williams, final comment on ward boundaries and how many wards.
I don't disagree with what's been said about having an odd number of votes on council. It's something that will prevent some of the deadlocks that we've seen on council decisions. In my 26 years as a municipal consultant, I've undertaken ward boundary reviews for several municipalities. It was disappointing to find that we were at a tie vote on moving ahead with a ward boundary review. I do favor 6 council representatives plus a reeve, and we have an order from the municipal board to undertake a ward boundary review following the election, and I fully intend to do that.
Thank you all. Okay, let's move on to your thoughts on the appropriate level of community and public involvement with council, both at council meetings, outside of council meetings. What are the methods by which input should be received and information disseminated? And we'll start with Wilfred.
If I get elected, I will get the public a lot more involved in all the decisions I will be making, and there are decisions coming up.
Peter Williams, please, on the appropriate level of community and public involvement, and how should that involvement, what should it look like?
It's an important question, and I'm very much in favor of community involvement in council activities. Public input is a matter of course where in hearings where the public solicited for their views. However, in regular meetings, the flow of council business could be seriously impacted when discussion becomes undisciplined. We've seen this happen when the public gets involved with some of the council meetings. But remember this, there are 2 issues. Rules of order are used to ensure that council business is undertaken in an orderly and a fair manner. And number 2, members of council are elected to make decisions on behalf of the municipality. It's still important, however, that the public have opportunities to express their thoughts on issues, and I'm willing to explore mechanisms to make that happen.
Thank you, Peter. Kyle Ross, please, on community and public involvement.
I think it's important to have community involvement. We need to listen as councillors. A lot of times people tend to talk more, but as a councillor, we need to listen. We need to hear what people have to say, take the information in, and try to make a valid decision. So at council, as Peter said, rules of order probably should be followed. Makes the conversation go a lot smoother and makes the events go faster. I think as regards for disseminating information, I find the RM doesn't do a great job. As a young person that's more technology minded, I find our website isn't great for search. It isn't good to find information, and I think we could head off a lot of information or just get the information out to people a lot easier if it was easier to be found. And right now I don't think we have that happening, and I think that would help a lot of people and probably solve a lot of complex issues that before they arise.
Thank you, Kyle. Ross, on community and public involvement with council.
Well, if you look at my wording beside the question, it's huge. Public involvement is a big deal. We need to bring forth a lot of your knowledge And there's a lot of people in this RM that have different aspects of their life where a lot of people do not have that knowledge. And if we can get forth the wording of what's up in the RM out, like Kyle said, like in websites, on information newsletters, the Clipper, if we could progress that beforehand and get the people with their positive aspects to what's happening in the RM, that we can address that. And we can just, I thought you were going to stand.
No, you're good.
But again, we have to bring that positive views, like no Oak Bank rant and rave. We don't need that as distributing information and ideas. And again, I've sat down for the last probably month and a half for council meetings to just see what's been going on, and it really, how would you say, we need order. We need to have a substantiated, positive role model in the front that can direct, can ask the people for their information, have it verbalized, and just go on from there. We need control in the council meetings so we can get that information and progress from that.
Thank you all. Next question is, please give your opinion of the RM entering into joint ventures or shared services agreements with other jurisdictions in the Winnipeg Capital Region or with private organizations. We will start with Kyle.
I think joint ventures are well. If you can be mutually served and it's mutually beneficial to the taxpayer and whoever you're joining with, I think it's very important to do this. It saves taxpayer dollars. There's opportunities to save money. There was the opportunity to go into joint venture to explore municipal internet. This past council that said no, they didn't want to join that, along with Selkirk, and I think that was a mistake. I think we should have got involved in that. Morden has done municipal internet. You pay $400 to connect. That's all you pay, and after you have internet, you're not paying $1,000 a year to MTS. I think that's one opportunity. We could have had a joint venture and explore the opportunity to do this, and it wasn't done.
Ross, please, on joint ventures or shared services agreements.
Well, again, I wasn't really too sure on really what joint ventures the RM did have coming into this, but I did make a phone call and through communication that, like, see the RM of East St. Paul, Beausejour, where if it enhances our RM through like community services, sharing services, I'm all for that. Again, like Beausejour, they go to a NOLA refuse dump. It's a paid service, but again, it's a shared service. It benefits us, it benefits them. Again, another situation that was brought up is firefighting, where I guess this past weekend there was a fire at Heartland Colony. Without what I know is of a joint service, regardless, I believe what I heard was that the fire was intense. East St. Paul and other local neighboring fire departments showed up. We didn't need the joint agreement. So I'm for it. If it supports our own services that we acquire right now, I'm all for joint services, really, as long as it enhances what our services we've been applying already.
Thank you, Ross. Let's go to Peter Williams now and your thoughts on joint ventures or shared service agreements.
Thank you. The RM of Rosser and the City of Winnipeg are cooperating to develop Manitoba's largest industrial transportation initiative, Centerport. Several years ago, the RM of Portage and the City of Portage entered into a tax-sharing agreement to attract some large agri-commercial operations that are providing significant jobs for both the RM and the city. The old partnership with the Manitoba Capital Region, now called the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, is an organization that is trying to facilitate the coordination of economic development and shared services in the capital region. I'm supportive of the RM engaging in joint ventures or shared services if there is a low-risk, positive upside for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Peter. The final word on joint ventures or shared service agreements to Wilfred.
Well, since these gentlemen said it all, I'm all for it, and most likely it saves money because other municipalities are all doing it already.
Okay, so those were all of our prepared questions. And so we'll see how many we can get through from the people here, and thank you to those who submitted a question. So we'll just go down from Peter on down, okay? And you've been asked to address the mill rate and the administration of taxes in the RM. The mill rate and the administration of taxes in the RM.
I'm not quite sure that I understand the question, but let me tell you what I know. Currently, taxes are raised by applying a mill rate across all properties. The portioned amount of the assessed value of properties has the mill rate applied to it. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a lower portioned amount for agricultural properties, a moderate portioned amount for residential properties, and a much higher amount that is assessed, that is taxed for industrial properties. The concerns that I'm hearing at the door as I go in the rural areas of Ward 5 are that they don't believe they're getting value for their tax dollars. Their taxes are increasing, but they don't see a commensurate increase with services being provided. I'd like the municipality to consider moving to a tax model where the benefits or amenities or services that certain areas of the municipality are getting that do not benefit other areas, that they be taken out and applied as a special services area. And this is a way to level the playing field, so to speak, to make taxation more fair for services that are provided.
Thank you, Peter. Wilfred, the mill rate and the administration of taxes in the RM.
Well, from what I see is that the mill rate has gone up again this year, but the value of our houses has dropped. That's why our tax bills are a little bit lower. So if they decide to reassess our houses next year again at a higher rate, our taxes will probably be double what they went down this year.
Kyle?
I'm not sure of the question, to be honest, and I don't think I have any value to add, so I'm going to keep it to myself.
Fair. Ross?
Well, I don't think anyone really likes to pay taxes, and like it's been said before, other than really the community of Dugald in Ward 5, if we're rural people, we really don't get a lot of return for our taxes. We get access to a dump, a police force, fire department, and really, if you live on an RM road, again, you get snow removal and dust control. But really, it's the mill rate, from my knowledge, it's detrimental to the infrastructure that we have to create in the RM. I know a lot of people disagree with how it's working, and ideally, I totally disagree with it too. But the mill rate has to be set where if we have a budget that I believe that we need that specific amount, and like I say, sometimes their taxes go down, sometimes their taxes go up. It's inevitable. It's taxes, really. So it's kind of, I'm not really how to answer that other than I don't know how to control a mill rate. I'm not really that informed on that part of it. But I know the mill rate is set to a point where it helps our infrastructure in the RM for that budget coming up.
Thank you all. This question also from our audience, so thank you. We'll start with you, Kyle. Your policies regarding recreation in the RM.
I think we require more recreation. I have small children, and right now a lot of recreation, take hockey, ringette, it's unaffordable for most families. Barrier to entries are huge. I think it's something as a council we should look at. I know it's probably not all our responsibility, but something we have to look at. There has been some spending in the last year in infrastructure in Ward 5. They built we have a new play structure now in Gillespie Park that was just built there a couple weeks ago. Volunteers put that together, and the rink in Dougal was paved or asphalted this past year. But I think more needs to be done for families to entertain our families, keep them in the community. Like the splash pad was vetoed by the last council. That's something that could benefit business. It keeps families in town. They have the opportunity to go for ice cream after. It benefits everyone, and I don't understand why we're not more focused on recreation and trying to keep people within the community and enjoy the community. We have a beautiful community. There's lots of green spaces. I just can't understand that.
So this is on the subject of your policies and your thoughts on recreation. Let's go to Ross next.
Again, like I've said it before, really we need our youth to grow together. We need to give them a place to go. Like I was saying, progressively the Dougal area, the rink, I've been asked, well, would you possibly put basketball nets at either end of that so they can play basketball? Sure, why not? How about a tennis court? Sure, why not? Again, it's a shared recreational space, and I believe that, well, we can share it appropriately. And ideally, if it's in the budget, progressively maybe go along, get more PlayStation. But I hope to see that, like in the Dougal area, with the expansion, with the more residential areas growing up, that we can get more green space as opposed to having just the one in the one area of Dougal, ideally.
Thank you, Ross. Let's go to Wilfred now on the subject of recreation in the RM.
Well, my kids are all grown up already, but I believe there should be more recreation. And like I touched on before, I think there should be a recreation center built one day in the municipality of Springfield, not maybe just in Oak Bank, but somewhere central where everybody can get to.
Final word on the subject of recreation, Peter.
Thank you. I'm a proponent of recreation. Our kids grew up with involvement in community recreation. My thoughts on how we fund recreation are that it needs to be a grassroots initiative to develop the programs and initiate fundraising for capital involvement. The municipality, when they see that kind of investment by the community, will do some kind of cost sharing to support that type of a program. We've seen a great example of that recently in Cooks Creek.
Thank you all. We'll come right back down the line, Peter, so you stay with the mic. Our next crowd question is, what, if any, relationship do you see as having with the school division, and why?
Back to recreation, the school has a number of facilities that can be used for recreational opportunities. I think there needs to be a much closer relationship between the municipality and the school division on programs and projects that benefit us both, and a sharing of facilities to accomplish that.
Just coming down the line, Wilfred, on the relationship with the school division.
Well, the school divisions, you can use their gyms for volleyball, floor hockey, and things like that, at least as far as I know, because we used to be able to. And I used to play floor hockey and volleyball right in this gym we're sitting in.
Kyle, on the subject of relationship with the school division.
I think it's important we have a good relationship with the school divisions. They offer programs and they have opportunities to use their gyms and their services. Currently, I run the baseball league, the adult baseball league, and we use the diamonds that they provide. We ask them, and sometimes they charge us a fee, but we're allowed to use their diamonds, and we have to have a good working relationship. We have mutual needs within the community, and we can probably work together to get what they want, what we want. There's opportunities there for synergy.
Final word to Ross on relationships with the school division.
Again, I think this is probably the third or fourth time I brought it up, but again, the youth in the RM need a place to go to. If the RM can support it, I know like probably 60% of our taxes do go to school taxes, so ideally we are giving them a portion already. But again, if the RM can help create a dynamic for kids to progress and to interact with each other, I'm fully for that.
This comes from the audience as well. We'll start with Wilfred on this one. Your view of how the councillor of this ward should deal with the concerns of other wards.
I think that I think that all councillors should be working together to strive what's best for the municipality.
Let's go to your left. Our audience is right. And now Peter. So this is how this councillor deals with concerns of councillors in the other wards.
I think Wilfred is absolutely right. The Municipal Act states that any decisions made by members of council have to be to the benefit of the municipality as a whole.
Kyle?
I think it's important that we listen. We're all one RM. Even though we're a council, we represent our members. We're still a voice for other members as well. If they bring concerns forward, we have to listen. Listen and do our best to do what's best for everyone. It's not easy all the time. Sometimes you have to make a tough decision that some people won't like, but that's part of being a councillor. That's part of the challenges of the job. We have to listen. We have to make an intelligent decision what's best for the RM.
Thank you, Kyle. Ross?
I guess I'll just have to mirror image what the last three fellows have said, that ideally when walking around and talking to people that I say, well, what are you running for? I said, well, I'm running to represent Ward 5, but again, ideally I'm here to benefit the RM of Springfield.
Thank you all. I won't lie, a little part of me was hoping someone would say, tell them to beat it, but I was like, that's risky. Be a gutsy move. What's that? Send him to Cooks Creek. This comes to us from the audience as well, and we're going to start with Ross on this one. How can council learn from other RMs who may have new practices or ideas? So things that are taking place in other RMs, and how our council can learn from that.
Well, I believe there's seminars that are brought on by a municipal group that you can go to as a councillor. It's brought on and it's discussed what they're doing. They want to know what people are doing in the RM of Springfield, and like a case in point, the RM of Rockwood, and I believe another RM have a program they're trying to initiate where they have a security for the elderly or the people with medical conditions, that there's a priority for snow removal or anything that could benefit that person. They're trying to progress with that program, and they've sent out an email that if the RM of Springfield would adopt that, if these other two RMs would also adopt that. So again, even just being a candidate, that I'm getting emails, I guess because of the position I'm in right now, that they are already communicating with people, and I'm not even in a position to represent this ward as of right now. So there is communication back and forth, I can tell you that. And again, it's a very good issue, because walking through the ward, and I came across a person, I actually have known him for quite a while, I haven't seen him in a long time, but he has medical issues. And he is concerned that he will not get that service if the RM cannot provide snow clearing, because he does get like medical service 4 times a day, home care. So again, it's these services that I found out that there is communication between the RMs, and we can learn from them, and vice versa. They could hopefully learn from what we do in the RM of Springfield.
Thank you, Ross. So Kyle, this is on council learning from other RMs who may do things differently, have adopted new ideas or practices.
I think it's important we reach out to other councils and understand it's pretty rare in this day and age that we're doing something first. Someone else has done it before us, and they've made mistakes, and they've learned from those mistakes, and we don't have to make them. We can learn from them by reaching out, asking them questions, and just understanding where the pitfalls were, and doing well by our taxpayers, and saving them money from those. Usually they're expensive mistakes when you make a mistake when you're trying to do something. It's pretty simple. A simple Google search. Someone has probably done it. There'll be a news article about it somewhere, and then you can find the council and contact them. There's information's out there. It's available and accessible for everyone.
Thank you, Kyle. To Peter now, on the subject of learning from other RMs.
The AMM, Association of Manitoba Municipalities, is an organization that allows or facilitates this kind of consultation between municipalities. They are a lobbying organization to improve provincial municipal relations, but they also facilitate the exchange of information and ideas. The system is in place to do that.
Thank you, Peter. Final comment on that topic to Wilfred.
Well, there's probably not much more I can say than these 3 gentlemen said about it, so I'll just save some time.
Okay. What we'll do now is, starting with Ross and just going down the line, we'll give you a final wrap-up statement. So if there's a message you wanted to get across that didn't come up in one of the questions, or just your final thoughts on this evening, we would appreciate those. So we'll just go down the line, starting with you, Ross.
Really, I just appreciate everyone coming out. I'm pretty sure there are a lot more views and concerns that people are vocalizing tonight. For the some that I've received as going house to house, I know I haven't hit every house. I'm probably about 55% of the area that I've progressed to and going door to door. With 143 linear miles in Ward 5, it's quite the daunting task. But just to know that your concerns will be heard and will be addressed at council, hopefully by one of us, if after October 25th. So I just want you to feel that, because there are things that come up like dust control and access to services, really, because just sitting in on council meetings, you hear so much through what people are asking for variances and that, and there are services out there that could be possibly provided that could benefit people who live in a rural aspect, but it's not getting out there, and we need to just get that going.
Thank you, Ross. Kyle, Ross, your final words of the evening.
First off, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. I think it's pretty important and pretty awesome to see this many people that actually care. In this day and age, a lot of people, it's tough to get them out of their houses. It was a nice day today too, but thank you for listening. Hope to meet you guys on my door knocking. I've been trying to get out there as much as I can. I wish you all the best. Hope you vote on the 24th. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you, Kyle. Wilfred Funk, final words from you.
I would also like to thank you for coming out, because it's great that so many of you show an actual interest in what we're trying to do. And everybody whose door I've knocked on that's in here already, they know what I stand for and what I'm planning on doing. So thank you.
And Peter.
Thank you. I would echo the comments of my colleagues here that it's important that you do come out and take the time to evaluate the candidates. You've been given a privilege of being citizens in a democracy, and this is an important democratic institution that we're looking at tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. They all said it, but I'll say it again. I think the turnout was wonderful, and the fact that you took time out of your busy lives to engage and be invested in your community, I think is awesome. And again, at the beginning I said it, but to all 4 of you for stepping up and putting your name out there. I think it's a big thing, and it takes a lot of courage. And obviously you care about where you live, and we appreciate that. So to all of our candidates who put their names out there, give them a round of applause. And to Vince and everyone who organized, thank you so much. And if you want the absolute truth, I did nothing. Linton did all the work. So please give it up for Linton, and thank you. That was awesome. Yeah. So all the best to you all, and thank you for being here. If you want to join it's the chair committee. It's a super fun game where you fold chairs and pile them. Yeah, it's really neat. Yeah, really neat. If you want to join that team, you are welcome to. But all the best, and again, thanks for coming through.